Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Natalie Wilkerson. I'm the president of the Paul Sawyer Public Library Board of Trustees. Today is September 8th, and this is the regular monthly meeting of the Paul Sawyer Public Library Board of Trustees. I will call the meeting to order and ask our secretary, Carolyn, to record attendance, please. I think we're all here. And you all have had time to look over the agenda. If I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think that was unanimous.
It is now that I've unmuted. So.
Okay. If you haven't, please take a second to look at the minutes from last month's board meeting. And once you've had a chance to review it, we'll take a motion to approve, or if you have any additions or corrections, please let us know.
Might be worth noting there's a latest version of that ended late today. So.
Yes, we wanted to make sure we got our numbers correct for the tax rates.
Yeah, that was a change. So. Just want to make sure everybody's looking at the correct item. Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any last minute edits? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Treasurer's report. Bob?
Okay, thank you. The treasurer's report, which Jean sent out earlier, same format as always, beginning at the top. On August 1, 2020, we had a checkbook balance of $154,218.67. In August of $234,966.87, 200,000 of that was a transfer from the savings account. Checks written, $265,436.20. So the ending balance on the checking account bank statement as of August 31 was $123,749.34. On the report below that, it shows the savings account activity after the $200,000 transfer, which I mentioned a second ago. The savings account balance is $663,217.65. Below that, we have the other accounts, the Honor and Remembrance account and the Baldry account at the Whitaker Bank for total other accounts or investments of $32,355.03. The line of credit is shown on the report below that. There is no current balance due on the line of credit. We've not had to borrow on that yet. So total funds as of August 31, 8/19/322.02. There's been no deposit activity after August 31 through today's. Below at the bottom, it shows calculations considering the outstanding checks, et cetera, and the estimated expenses for the remainder of this month. Those are detailed, and it's projected that we'll need to withdraw another $175,000 from the savings account. But after that, and even after payment of the projected expenses, we'll have approximately $81,241 remaining in the account at the end of the month. That's the first page. The revenue and expenditure report attached. Of course, there's a statistics report and the monthly credit card summary and a list of the checks which are to be signed and which will be signed as soon as G and I can connect on that. So that is the treasurer's report. I do notice a sizable credit on the credit card summary for Log Me In, which is always good. I just don't know what that is. But $1,378.
That was a service that we've been using for remote access for staff, and we didn't need that any longer, so they gave us a credit for that. So
Good.
Great.
Jean, I see on the credit cards, we've got a lot of 50, I'm assuming we got some Michael's gift cards. Is that what the multiple $15 expense was?
yes, and we could, because of fraud, we're limited to buying only a few of those cards at a time. So we had to make multiple purchases. I guess some people use it for money laundering. And so they have those checks in place. So that's why the multiple purchases. Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, I don't have my August report or my report from the August meeting, which would have had July. But how are we on library visits compared to last month? Do you have that report handy?
I can pull it up. Sure.
I'm just curious if we're slowly increasing as people get more comfortable with the protocols and the safety measures that we're taking.
Let me take a look. All right. Our visits are up. Yes, quite a bit. In July, they were 4,727. And this month, oh no, I'm sorry, they're down.
They're down, yeah.
Yeah, they are. Library visits were 3,896 in August, and they were 4,727 in July.
Okay.
So we're,
On the other hand, the electronic use is way up.
yes, electronic use is way up. We're seeing some really nice response on that.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions about the treasurer's report? How about a motion to approve?
Make the motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Thanks, Maria.
I'll second it.
Thanks. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Valerie, for getting it all together for us.
Yes. Yes.
Jean, you're next with the treasurer's report.
Okay, I have a lot to talk about today, so bear with me. Statistics, you noticed that the online programs are going really well. Obviously, our library visits are down, and it's kind of hard to explain why that could be, but online craft programs get the best response, both adult and children. We're doing weekly story times in a couple of different formats for youth. And so Community Connections has been really popular. We're getting a lot, 1,200 views on those. And those are what we're doing with community partnerships. And then our craft programs, more than 2,000 views on Facebook, our resource sharing tutorials where we're letting people know how to use our resources. 763 views for those, 347 or 947 views on story times. And then we had a fun contest for Shark Week, voting for sharks, your favorite shark. And that was 1,409 votes for Shark Week, which was a lot of fun. That was on Facebook. So we seem to be keeping our folks engaged online, which is a really, really good thing. More than 40 teams participated in virtual events in August, which is really a great turnout for them as well. So that's it for statistics and usage, I guess. Former board member Nick Pettit passed away on August 27th. And I don't know if you all saw that in the news, in the State Journal, but we were mentioned as a contribution for memorials or things in his honor. And we have received our first donation from Mary Lynn in his memory. So we will be looking for more of those. As those come in, I will keep you updated on those. But we're going to be doing a feature on him on our Facebook page in the very near future. So
Right.
recognizing what he did for the library, and we'll look for that in the next few days. We have started the audit process this year. We're pulling the things together. We should have all of the documents to Greg at Charles T. Miller by the end of the month. We're shooting for the end of next week. And if we do that, we should be able to have the audit process completed by the end of October for this year. So that will put us a little bit ahead of where we were last year. I checked, we don't have a contract for this, for an ongoing contract. So next year we might want to consider using a different firm just to switch it out a little bit, and then we could always go back to Charles T. Miller if we choose to. But for this year, we will be proceeding with them. The advocacy committee for Kpla has already started. We met last week and planning strategy for the upcoming, or for next year's legislative session. So it'll be a short session. There's a couple of things on the radar already, so I'll keep you apprised of those as they come up. But we're already starting work on that, because we'll be setting the budget for next year as well. So that has begun already. I sent out the most recent information that I received about the TIF project. There will be a public hearing on September 16th, and that's going to be available on the City of Frankfort's Facebook page and on Frankfort Plant Board's Cable 10, so that if you just want to view the public hearing, you can see it in those manners. It'll be at, I think, 5 o'clock on Wednesday, September 16th. If we wish to take part in, we have to contact Blair Hecker and ask to comment. So, and I have her contact information if you think we need to do that. But to view the public hearing, it will be on there at the City of Frankfort's Facebook page. Last is our HVAC issues. We called a third party, Johnson Controls from Lexington, and they came out to, they're the local York distributor, and that York is the maker of our current air-cooled chiller system. And the technician determined that we should be able to just replace the compressor that is not working. And that would give us hopefully 5 to 10 more years on the whole system. So that's a much less expensive repair than replacing the whole system. Although it will be in excess of 30,000, probably more likely in excess of 40,000. So we're going to do the public bid process. So I have developed, with the review of the building committee, Bob and Allison, I've developed an RFP that we'll put out tomorrow, and then we'll have to have a special meeting that we can conduct via Zoom to open and award the bids. And I have that time tentatively set for the 17th, which is a week from Thursday at 4 p.m. And I need the board to confirm that before I put the documents out for to the public, I guess. So the compressor that we have that is working was replaced 2 years ago, and it's working really well. It's keeping the air cool all by itself when we really should be having 2 compressors working. So hopefully replacing the second one and then putting the preventive maintenance plan in place should take care of those issues for the at least 5 years.
So you're looking for confirmation from us that we're available at 4 p.m. on the 17th?
Yes, for enough for a quorum to do the meeting. Yeah.
That works for me. Jean, will you, after this meeting, just send us that date and time via
Yes.
email? And then, yeah, as long as we have a quorum, anybody who's interested is welcome, but as long as we have a quorum, we can do that. And Jean, I also had a question about the audit. Did Charles T. Mitchell confirm their price for that?
We did, yes,
Same as last year?
yes.
Okay, great. Do you all have any questions for Jean? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's go to committee reports. We've heard about the building committee's meeting. Budget did not meet. Long range did not meet. Policy personnel met. Cheryl, do you just want to give us a debrief on the evaluation process?
Yeah, Natalie and I met with Jean on Friday and went over the cumulative evaluation for her 1-year anniversary. The board is really happy with what she's done. We're thankful that she's there spearheading our efforts during the pandemic. And Jean, just to let you all know, Jean replied back that she felt like she was in her dream job. So I took that to mean that she was happy.
Very.
We are going to probably meet later this fall and to talk about doing some tweaks to the evaluation process to gear it more toward our strategic plan goals.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So that everything we do kind of revolves around that plan that had so much community input, staff input, board input. I mean, the whole team worked really hard on that. And I think it's great for all of our efforts just to, you know, like I said, circle around that, those things.
Bit more
most
document
forward. Yeah. Maria, did technology meet? I don't think you all did. Okay, so let's move on to new business.
Sorry, no, we didn't. I didn't realize I was muted.
I don't think you all didn't meet, did you?
No.
Okay. So Jean, you wanted to, we've all gotten a copy or a draft version of the travel policy related to the pandemic. But Jean, do you want to talk about that?
Yes. As it relates to travel, other libraries have adopted something very similar to this, particularly because of travel to hotspot places and putting themselves and possibly the rest of the staff at a greater risk than possibly even greater risk than being here. So I borrowed this policy from other libraries, and then Terry Manuel tweaked it. If you can see, there should be a portion in red maybe, but he suggested that we clarify the testing with a negative COVID-19 test taking from after returning from travel and within 3 days of returning to work. So that's why it came about, and that's where we may need a larger, I do think we probably need to have a larger pandemic policy, but that will take a little bit more work than a few days before the board meeting. So I'll be working on that as well, and borrowing from other libraries as well too, and tailoring to our situation. But that's the travel policy. Did that?
I have a quick question. I can't pull it up. I saw it earlier. I just want to, is it all travel outside of Kentucky or just hotspot for the requirement for the
It's as
testing?
set by the governor and local health officials, so that there is a list of states that the governor recommends that Kentuckians do not travel to. So it would be that list, and it changes. I wouldn't say on a weekly basis, but they monitor where the cases are increasing around the nation, and that's how the list is generated.
Jean, I looked at this earlier, and I'm looking at the part that Terry added saying, you know, you would either self-isolate or provide proof of a negative COVID test after returning from travel and within 3 days of returning to work. Should that be 3 days of returning home, or would you see them immediately going in and working, but within 3 days get a negative?
I was a little surprised that that's how he put it, but
Yeah.
that was his recommendation. But we can change that. You know, if that's what you think needs to be done, I would think that they would need to have a test before they came back into work.
Before coming to work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
I would feel like it should be returning home, you know, within 3 days or, yeah, within 3 days of returning or,
Well,
well,
it
I
says
guess
to
what I'm
return to
thinking is
travel.
you don't want them immediately coming from the hotspot into the library.
Right.
You either want them to self-quarantine or give you a COVID negative test.
The way I read that, and I could be wrong, but that it is within 3 days of returning to work, because you could go, theoretically, you could have a 2-week vacation. You could travel 1 week and then have another week before you came back to work. And 3 days, within that 3-day window of returning to work, you have to have the test, is the way I took that. So it's 3 days before you, within that 3-day window of returning to work, no matter, you know, if you traveled a week before.
But I think the question is, under that scenario, do you read that to mean you could come in and work 2 days before you?
Right.
No.
Required.
Okay.
It says within 3 days of returning to work. And so some people are interpreting that as 3 days after returning to work. That's what I'm hearing. But
Yeah.
now that we talk about it, I'm thinking within 3 days of returning to work means 3 days. But I don't know. I didn't talk to Terry.
I didn't either. It was an email.
And I looked at it and thought it looked right. And then I just started looking at it again just before the meeting. I guess I'm thinking you want language that means you wouldn't have someone coming from a hotspot and going directly into the library and then later handing you a COVID test, because it could be a positive COVID test.
Before.
And they would be working.
3 days before returning to work. That would.
Well, it says negative test taken after returning from the travel and within. So I'm sorry I'm thinking out loud here, but that sounds to me like two different tests.
As long as they had one 3 days before they came back to work, then it wouldn't matter how long they've been home before,
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
how long they've been away. I mean,
At
Yeah, I
least
took
3
it to-
days before returning to work. Should it be before instead of of? Is that within 3 days? Before
We
returning
could
to
do both. Yeah, we could do both 3 days before, which I certainly think that would be necessary. But since sometimes it takes a long time well, certainly for symptoms, I don't know about detection. You could also require within 3 days after.
At this time, we're monitoring staff. We're still taking temperatures and we have a set of questions that they have to answer. So if they do take the test and return to work, we would still be monitoring them for any symptoms. So I don't know whether it would be necessary to require another test.
Well, they might be symptomatic.
Yeah, if they're symptomatic, that's going to show up, and then we would take the steps that we have in place for sending them home and either self-quarantining or getting tested at that again, if that case may be at that point.
I see, I have two objections to the policy. One is, I don't think it's appropriate for the library to be dictating to employees where they can go and they cannot go. I believe that it brings up potential constitutional issues of indicating whether an employee may or may not go. And I'm also concerned about how enforcement would work. And I haven't heard any benefits of this policy that would outweigh the potential risk of litigation over it. Moreover, I strenuously object to the notion that an employee that is not going to be working because they're now in self-quarantine is not going to absolutely get paid. There's two regulations that are in effect since April all the way to the end of December. The regulations are 29 Cfr Section 826.20 and 826.21. Both of those mandate the payment of wages for up to 14 days if you're quarantining someone. And the way that the language is written there, I assure you that my interpretation of these two regulations is that they fall into that category. So I don't understand why we're doing this. And all I can see is that potential problems come from it. And that's why I object to it.
Well, I believe we're doing it so that people who travel out of state take the precautions outlined by the governor so that they don't come back to work without knowing that they're COVID negative, and potentially make the library a hotspot. That they don't spread it to other staff, and the many members of the community that come through, a lot of whom are at risk. That, I mean, to me, that's the benefit.
And there is a cost to that, Natalie, in that you're saying you go to the hot spot and have your vacation, and then the library has to absorb 2 additional weeks, potentially 2 additional weeks that you can't work, or they have to modify your work so you can work from home. And so that is a cost to the library. So I'm wondering what the state policy is on this. And
Bernie, I don't take it as we're dictating that you can't go, but there are consequences for your actions. You can't do drugs and work in certain places of employment. And the consequence of doing that is you will be tested. And, depending on that test, there's a consequence to that. I think there are consequences to your actions. My biggest concern is whether you travel to a hotspot or not, how do you determine where you catch COVID? I mean, you can't. So, and we have employees who are working in a public place, which makes them potentially at a higher risk than people who are working from home. So, personally, I don't feel like people should be rewarded for being at home. Like, for instance, a clerk who can't do their job from home because their job is literally to be a face for the public and to manage our circulation. So they can't do that from home. Do they get an automatic 2-week additional vacation paid because they decided to go to a place that has a 25% outbreak or 25% positivity rate for COVID-19? Do they automatically get 2 more weeks because they made a choice that puts everybody that they work with and our public at risk?
Well, I think to the answer to that last question, the answer is yes. The law is clear, it's black and white. And as to the first portion of it, I'll start off by saying I haven't left the state of Kentucky since March. And somebody who goes drinking at Harvey's in downtown Lexington or likes to go out partying in Louisville is not being any safer than someone who decides to go to the beach in Myrtle Beach. Someone who's having barbecue parties in their house with 20 people is not being any safer than someone who sits at home and puts on a mask when they go to the grocery store. Now,
They,
we
yeah, they
are a
might
public,
be safer. Bernie, they might be safer because this is not a hot spot. They just might be safer.
I don't think that drinking right now in public is a safe activity. And here's the thing, we're a public entity. And these are a lot of people working in the library. And if you're going to deny them the ability to travel, and if they do travel, then they're not going to get paid. It doesn't take that many Google searches to find somebody who claims that they're part of the, a version of the ACLU that believes that government reaction to prohibiting commerce is not going to be that far. And what's going to happen to the library then? Who's going to pay the legal bills if we get sued?
It doesn't mandate unpaid leave.
Yes, it does. 29 CFR Section 826.20 and .21 do mandate it.
I'm saying the policy doesn't mandate unpaid leave.
It does not. It gives a discretionary
Right.
portion of it.
That's my point. And I have a question. This is truly a question because I don't know. This is your area of the law, not mine. But the regulation that you cited, that email that we sent around before between some people, it says that employers shall provide sick leave, et cetera, if the employee's been advised by a health care provider to self-quarantine. And we're not talking about that situation where someone's been advised by a health care provider. So you still think it would apply here? Because this is just a policy to self-quarantine. I agree there might be some concern if they, or as the regulation indicates, are told by a health care provider to self-quarantine.
I'll put it this way, Bob. If someone called me from one of their neighboring counties and saying that their director told them not to go to work because they traveled to Myrtle Beach and they came back and they weren't paid for 14 days, I would sue the library. And I think Terry's wrong.
Based on that regulation or other concerns?
Well, I'm not a constitutional lawyer that's going to argue about the Commerce Clause portion of it. I think that there's some places that claim that they're nonprofits that will do that. But as far as the unpaid wages portion of it, I would have no hesitation of suing any of the libraries other than our library for not paying their employees after telling them to stay at home. And I get these calls, just so you know, Bob, almost every day. They're not coming from the library, but they're coming from other businesses. And the businesses that are excluded from this are essentially healthcare workers and the people that line the pockets of Mitch McConnell who have more than 500 employees. So if you have between 50 employees and 500 employees and you call me and you're not a healthcare worker, I am suing. Does the library want to pay the legal bills of somebody if that happens?
Well, we do have employee insurance. I wonder if it's worth running by the insurer just to see if they have a position.
Listen, it's just one objection that I thought it'd be brought up because if this is not a concern about any particular employee, I'm not sure if it's wise to add this to it. If it is a concern about a particular employee acting inappropriately, then the question ought to be is why is that person still working here?
Well, it does seem, we're two board meetings away from the holidays. Things could look very different pandemic-wise between now and then, or they could look very much the same. It concerns me that there's a potential for half the library staff to travel out of state for whatever reason, and bring the virus with them. I know that that's a daily concern for everybody, but I just think that the temptation to travel, we've gotten hopefully past the summer temptation to travel, but the temptation to travel is going to come in the next couple of months. And I think it's wise to explore this. I like the idea of running it by insurance. And we're not telling anybody that they can't travel. We're just asking for certain steps if they do.
the question also comes up that brings to mind, if we do have a large population of employees who travel over the holidays, do we have to shut down? If 20 employees travel and are quarantining, do we have to shut down?
Simply because they're unavailable.
Right, because we no longer have staff to operate.
Yeah, yeah.
Or because they're quarantining. But if they're
Right.
not, but if they're not quarantining because they have been advised to medically, then that wouldn't figure into that. I mean, we're not saying everybody has to quarantine, right? Because they go on vacation. It's just if they are advised to by a medical professional.
We're saying if they travel to a place that has a travel advisory by the state government.
What happens if I travel and I don't tell you about it? Are you going to fire me for lying?
Yeah.
But I would think that everybody's not going to travel at the same time. I would think that they would have, if they were going to go someplace, I mean, it might be a weekend vacation or something, but if it was a long vacation, when Jean would know about that and they wouldn't all be traveling, she wouldn't approve everybody traveling all at the same time. So we wouldn't have the issue of a whole lot of people unless we had a lot of people that got sick. That would be an issue where we would have to shut down. So this is hopefully try to prevent that. And maybe if an employee did have to self-quarantine, rather than them being off work, could Jean maybe see about a virtual responsibility they could have virtually? Rather than them being off work, they could still work virtually. That way they could still be working and get paid rather than just being off work. Because they wouldn't be sick, they would just be not at work physically. So they could still work virtually.
Some of our
But we
employees,
do have employees that can't do virtual, our building superintendent, our security. And we're talking about them being off a whole month, but potentially. And we don't even have someone to do their work while they're gone, I guess. Well, okay, we do have trained staff now.
Yeah, she knows how to operate the system now. So.
No problem. I know with the timing, it's really essential to nail this down now, but it seems like we need to talk about it some more too. Jean, are you feeling the need to have a policy in place now?
I think that I think the board needs to be, it's the board's decision about whether to put this in place and what it looks like. So no, I am not feeling a pressure to have this, put into place immediately. I think it needs to be considered and I think it needs to be the board's decision. So no pressure from me.
Have you talked to the supervisors about a policy like this and gotten their feelings on?
Everybody has been on board with it that I've spoken with. Yeah. They're looking at it from the standpoint that if someone chooses to go to a hotspot and then is quarantining, they're getting paid for an extra 2 weeks, that for being home, going to a vacation spot that, isn't the best advised, that it puts the rest of the staff in a bind too, because we are working at reduced hours, reduced staff. We're working in teams still. So even if one of those people, or, heaven forbid two, well, they don't we try to monitor that vacation, but even one person being unavailable for 2 weeks puts a big strain on the rest of the staff for covering the hours that they would be here. So yes, the managers would be on board with this.
Well, why don't we see if the insurer has any input on this at all and they considered that issue, and then if there's any distinction between where a medical provider you should or must quarantine versus our policy where there's been no diagnosis, no recommendation other than just our proposed policy to quarantine until we know the coast is clear.
I'll be happy to check with the insurer for that. Yeah.
Okay, so we won't take any action on this tonight. Perhaps we'll have an answer on by the 17th, in which case we could discuss it then if we wanted to, or we can run back through the policy committee. Jean, why don't you just email us when you hear something from the insurance carrier, and we can go from there. Any other thoughts before?
Well, the only thought I have is if September 17th will be a special meeting, right?
Right.
So if we are going to take this up, it needs to be part of the notice.
Yes.
Right.
If we decide we're ready to talk about, we need to make sure that's part of the notice.
Right.
And I think we can wait until the October meeting to finalize this.
Okay, that's fine too.
But I will let you know as soon as I have any information to share from the insurer.
Yeah.
And Jean, if you think that the Policy and Personnel Committee, if it would benefit us to meet and hammer out some of these issues after you talk to the insurer before we come before the whole board, we can work that too. I do think that the whole board needs to be involved in an informed conversation for the vote. But it may be that we can bullet point it. It might be easier for us to bullet point it in a smaller committee. I don't know.
Well, let's
I guess
see.
we could.
The insurance, the answer from the insurance agent may uncomplicate things, and so we'll just wait to hear from them and then see. You know, we can see what our next best move is. But I'm fine to just put it on old business for the October meeting, rather than trying to address it before then. Okay. Looks like we do not have any old business for tonight. Does anybody else have anything we need to be aware of?
I would just strongly encourage everyone to monitor the hearing on the TIF, September 16th. I would hope everybody would monitor that and get up to date on it.
Yes, and if we need more information, I think Chuck Knowles was very willing to come and talk to us more about it if we needed clarification on issues or whatever. But yes, it would be great if everybody could be present virtually on the 16th to get informed about the TIF. And then Jean, you were maybe going to mention about hours.
Yes, thank you, Natalie. I'm sorry. For me, it's a done deal and I've neglected. We'll be expanding our hours starting Monday, the 14th. We're going to start at open at 10, and from 10 to noon on Mondays and Tuesdays will be for our at-risk patrons. And then noon to 6, we'll be open until 6, Monday through Friday, and Monday through Thursday. And then Friday and Saturday will be still be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. But so we'll be open 10 to 6, Monday through Thursday, with at-risk hours on Mondays and Tuesdays. And we'll continue curbside during the same hours that we're running it right now, but we have a dedicated group of folks who prefer that method of delivery, and it's enough that the staff can handle those even while we're open. So we'll continue to offer that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So we'll be serving those folks in the same way that we have. So we'll see if this will help our attendance more, if people encourage folks to come back into the library. So
When will the new hours start? Next Monday?
Monday, 14th. Yes.
Okay.
Jean, did you say it would still be 10 to 2 on Friday and Saturday?
Okay, and Thursday, what's the time on Thursday?
10 to 6.
Okay,
10 to 6.
okay,
Wednesday and Thursday will be 10 a.m. to 6 for everyone. And then Monday and Tuesday will be noon to 6 for everyone and 10 to 2 for our at-risk folks, or 10 to noon for at-risk folks.
okay. That's great.
Thank you all for all you do. I'm excited about the extended hours, excited about the online services.
I will say that I wanted to start that earlier, but the reason what's kept us from doing that is access to appropriate cleaning supplies, because we were running out of what we had in stock and could not replace disposable wipes. They're just not to be had. So we're putting different measures in place to be able to use a concentrated or diluted cleaner and spray. It's all in place. We're all good, but we'll be able to start that, and we should have enough materials that we can continue this for the foreseeable future. So that is what kept us from opening for longer hours until now. So.
Great. Okay, if there's nothing else, we can move to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. See you next month, if not sooner.
Okay,
Thanks.
Bye.
bye.